Welcome to Success Your Own Way, a podcast about how real people define and redefine success throughout their careers. Hosted by Tina and Yifat Rogers, this show features candid conversations with guests who've made intentional choices, navigated change, and built lives aligned to their values. Their guests share their stories as well as strategies and tactics that help them along the way. Tina's a certified coach and a former corporate leader who supports professionals in making confident, values-driven decisions. Yifat is a consultant with a background in food science and engineering, helping people solve complex problems with a practical, no-nonsense approach. Each episode offers inspiration and actionable insights for anyone rethinking what success looks like in their life and how to get there.
This is so much fun. We get to do this again. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our new episode of Success Your Own Way. Today, it's just Tina and me.
I'm excited today to talk about Yifat and I have been talking about the differences in careers between being a specialist and being a really deep subject matter expert relative to being more of a generalist, and expanding your horizons beyond the technical or functional skills that we're super deep into, and how that looks and feels differently or not. And specifically diving into this concept of identity, which comes up a ton with my clients, especially when they make a change, and how difficult it is to untether themselves from that identity. Also, we want to talk a little bit about credentials and capability. And I think in both of our spaces, there's this opportunity to be credentialed in so many different things, and choosing what and what's the most useful. I know that's something I've been contemplating myself versus just my capability, all my experience, doing coaching. And then the last thing is this idea of luck or fortune, and how that might play or not, depending on whether you're a generalist or specialist or just in general. Yeah. So those are the things that we wanted to share with our audience today.
Great. I love that. And the perspective here is way more industry focused. Neither Tina or I worked in government or in our academia. So this is more industry related. But as we're starting, Tina, how would you even define what a generalist is versus a specialist?
Yeah, it's such a great question, and it's one that I think corporations strive to make clear because of this concept of a career ladder. So I know in my experiences working at Microsoft and other places, they literally had two different tracks, and you had to choose. You had to choose whether or not you wanted to be a deep technical subject matter expert. So that was either like a computer programmer, or even more in depth around architecture or data, or those sorts of capabilities on the tech side of things. And what was interesting about that to me was, first of all, having to make that choice, and then but being told, well, but you can go back and forth. And the reality of that was never true. Because if you were a deep subject matter expert, I will say, generally speaking, you weren't interested in leading people, which was more of this generalist, term. So my personal experience with it is companies try to do this to help with their salary grades and their pay and promotion tracks and keeping things equitable. But the reality of the ability to jump back and forth between ladders was a misnomer and actually not possible.
Yes. Yeah, those are harder and interesting. Kind of like the generalist has a little bit more of the connotation, or I do associate it more with managing a team versus more of a subject matter expert or someone that needs to influence without they are considered a subject matter expert. So I'll use a specific, sourcing manager within a group. Theoretically speaking, they are more generalist, but in their specific role, they're definitely they are the subject matter expert. They are the individuals, if you will. So sometimes we don't think about these functions as is it subject matter? Is it individual? So in my mind, it's also kind of a part of what is it that you're bringing to the table as far as the skills. It's someone that is you know, specialized. If I'm specializing in ideations and problem solvings, that is an individual despite being kind of like a generalist, if you
Oh, that's interesting. That's a adds layer of complexity out there, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, which is true. The other thing as you were speaking was I was starting to think about kind of this inverse pyramid and pyramid together is in terms of how you progress.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that what I often encompassed was the higher you went in a technical track or a specialist track, the fewer opportunities there were to continue
Mhm.
to advance. And so what we found was a lot of people who were deep technical and great at the technical and so important to the future of the organization ended up taking these strange moves to become people managers, were terrible
Mhm.
people managers, only to try to continue to advance. So the
Yes.
opportunities were just so limited, but yet such an important function in
Mhm.
any organization who's trying to stay on top of trends and really continue to live their value proposition.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it was an interesting phenomenon in my experience.
That is so true. And kind of like the need to make the move to a manager in order to get promoted. It feels like you're being penalized for being an expert. And it's when you think about it, part of it is how companies treat those. There are a million executive coaches that they hire and they're bring for their leaders. Where are the technical coaches? Where do you develop additional talent?
I think it's a
The,
it's a such an interesting thing to look back on. I mean, when you're in it, I think these are really difficult and tough choices, um but looking back, they're really set up to divide.
Mhm.
I'm wondering, Ifat, from your perspective, when you think about this notion of identity
Mhm.
tied to career, do you see a difference between how deep that identity runs depending on whether you've really chosen this generalist track versus this more specialized specialist track?
Definitely. And it really depends on the project and what I'm working on.
Mm,
There are some projects that I just feel more detached from. It's like I'm there, I'm doing a job. My identity is not as related to that. Versus some projects, either if I work with a brand that I really enjoy or just the technical problem is right within, my skill set where I'm like, I'm doing this job because Ifat is the best person to do that job. And in
right.
that case, it is a bigger part of my identity. Doing ideations is a part, we talk the Eureka framework, but like that is something that I do every day with everything. So yes, that is part of my identity and that is what I bring. So I think for those, I bring my identity to the project as opposed to kind of borrowing from like, hey, this is the group I'm working with. That's
Mhm.
kind of my identity. So it depends on the project, depends on just the energy and how closely I feel to the topic.
Yeah.
Formulating cereal, not impacting my identities. Doing something fun like getting a team unstuck, like yeah, all day long. That is
Okay.
part of my identity.
I love it. So what I'm hearing you say is like it really depends for you on how connected you
Yes.
feel with the work and how much you identify that work as being part of who you are.
Hmm.
Yeah. I can see that. I mean, I think, people become attached to what they do, even companies that they work for. I've recently seen a lot of people taking a voluntary retirement package from Microsoft, for example, or even being laid off. Almost coincidentally, a number of people doing both or
Hmm.
either. And I can hear in their messages on LinkedIn that they truly feel like they've lost their identity
Yes.
or have chosen to leave and had to recreate
Hmm.
their identity, and how scary and emotionally taxing that can feel to people.
Yes.
So there's definitely that connection. I'm starting to wonder, like, am I noticing am I noticing a difference between the tones of those who are in the more
Hmm.
generalist leadership tracks versus the technical ones? I'm not sure I am. I feel like there's identity in being connected with an
Hmm.
organization, with a project, with whatever, and maybe a good barometer for us to know how passionate we are about things, to notice how much it's tied to our own identities.
Yes, and we don't need, it could be that a generalist that's still, feels very passionate about something, or a generalist that's super connector, and that's part of what they do. Some people are connectors. They go in a room, boom, 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 like they know they can get people moving. Like that can be a generalist that just has so much passion. Like you could still have a lot of passion and just do whatever it is that you do also on your day-to-day life, just bringing that to work.
Yeah. I love that. It's making me think about so many other things around this topic, which is, how we show up, especially this example of a connector, your ability to take whatever your generalist tendencies are and apply them in multiple different ways. And I think people can, what I've noticed even about myself as I was laid off 3 years ago, almost to the day, to be able to untether the identity of being a part of an organization and really lean into those characteristics and the type of work that I like, and seeing how that could be applied. So my passion around people mentorship and coaching and my leadership roles, I turned into my career.
Yeah.
And I think that the transition becomes healthier for people if they can do that.
Yeah.
If they can't see what their skills, are, and see a path forward to continue to amplify and use those, then that's when they feel a little bit lost. But if they can see them, it can be this whole awakening and doors being opened, and excitement about what's to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then there's the question of credentials versus capabilities. And the question, is one more important for one career path versus the other?
Impact. For me personally, like, in coaching, you can get a variety of different certifications through like the International Coaching Federation, ACC, PCC, MCC. They have, all these other, and then you can get certified in all kinds of different leadership courses or other things. And it makes my head spin, because when I apply to sit on a bench of some coaching consortium, they ask me, well, what are your credentials? And over the last few years, I've given it a lot of thought, and there's some basic table stakes in coaching that I think you need in order to just get in the door. And the first one really is that ACC. It's that associate coaching certification. I also applied for many different benches that required the PCC. And so now, to me, that is the next level of table stakes I need to continue as a professional coach, which hopefully I will have early in 2027.
I'm going to check on that. Yep.
But when it comes to then these leadership credentials, the ones about DISC, or there's so many, I couldn't name them all. What value does that actually bring relative to me putting more time and energy in just coaching people and honing my craft and being mentored and developing my capability and demonstrating my credibility through references and endorsements on LinkedIn, or all of that. I mean, it's how do you spend your time and money so that you are having the right balance between the two?
I go to food, actually, and I'm like, okay, credentials are your claim. It's what's on the label. Like, you got whatever ingredients are in there, you can claim it's in there. You got ingredients you don't have in there, you can claim it. But the capability is really like the proof is in eating the pudding. It's like, okay, now you came into my door because of your label, but let's see if you're actually capable to deliver on the thing that you promised. So in a way, it's kind of risky to just hide behind credentials and then not being able to deliver on the capability hired. It feels like getting credentials is way more structured.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get the credentials. I'm going to take this class or this training. I'm going to get this credential. I'm going to take this test. I'm going to get these credentials. But when you think about capability, it kind of, I go back to luck and what luck plays a role. Like, how do you develop? How do you demonstrate? How do you develop around that. Is there more luck component when demonstrating capability or gaining capability compared to credentials?
Yeah, that's a huge fear. I think this idea of imposter syndrome because gonna pop into mind here, where you're like, yeah, I've got the ingredients, I've got what it takes here. Oh, now you've talked to me and you don't think I do, or
Yes.
you're going a different direction. Like that can really take a toll on
Mhm.
someone's confidence, on someone's belief in self and ability to get out there and market themselves too. So I love the analogy. I'm going to use that. Absolutely going to use that. Yes, we need both the claim and then we need to back it up. The
Yes.
proof in the pudding, as you
Mhm.
said. Yeah. And
So the idea of luck. So we praise good work done after it, the team effort, like
Mhm.
we get the awards for the team effort.
Yeah.
And it's almost like if someone is achieving something and it's perceived that they did not work hard for it, they're considered lucky. And
Mhm.
it takes away from that success.
Mm.
At least that's what it feels like to me.
Okay.
I think a lot of the good things that happen to us happen because along the way we have made smart decisions.
Yeah.
Looking back,
And I like the word fortune. I think I'm with you on the luck. I agree. Like winning the
Mhm.
lotto is one of those things. Although you had to buy the ticket in
Yes.
order to even have a shot at it. But regardless, like I do think we make our own fortune.
Mhm.
And I remember I think it was a psychology class back in college. We talked about this idea of locus of control and belief in how much of your success
Mhm.
you control and relative to your belief that the world is happening to you and that is causing
Yes.
your level of success or what
Mhm.
have you. And I tend to gravitate towards people who have a very strong internal locus of control. This idea that I create my own luck or
Mhm.
I create my own fortune or my decisions are what's really guiding
Yeah.
where I'm going, as opposed to the world is happening to me and I'm dependent on all these other things to happen so that I can get where I want to go. And I also, plug for coaching clients. Coaching clients do much better when they have that
Mhm.
sense of control. If they feel like the world is happening to them and woe is me. And we had Paul Benke on here who talked about thoughts on demand, and that's really where all of this starts to me. Is
Mhm.
like, what is your belief in self? What is
Yes.
your belief that you can control and you are in control of your future? So, Yifat, as we get ready to wrap up this amazing conversation, what are some of the key takeaways that you're bringing away from this conversation?
I had an aha moment actually in
You
the
did?
middle of this. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Do tell.
It was an aha around the work and identity. I
Mm.
did not think about it the way I just thought about
Where
it. And I think part of it is because the work kind of goes with my identity, and that is easier for me to
Mm.
just bring myself compared to some of the things that I'm just not as passionate
Yeah.
about. So that was actually a aha moment for me because in my mind I was like, no, my identity is not related to my work. And I was like, no, my identity though created my work, not the other way around.
Ooh, I like that. That's interesting. I was thinking about, well, all facets of the conversation with respect to this idea of generalists and specialists and how does that play a role in some of these other areas about credentials or
Mhm.
capability? And I think I've come to a conclusion that there is some difference, but it's not as stark as I thought it
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
coming into the conversation. Like the balance of credentials and capability need to be there
Mhm.
regardless of who you are and where you are in your career. And I think this idea of creating your own luck and fortune has just been kind of reinvigorated in me, and the confidence around, yes, I do own this.
Yes.
I am in control. Yes, things are going to happen to us. They will.
I mean,
We're human, right?
the world is not predictable. We can only control what we can control.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, if you can feel that sense of control over things, generally speaking, you can also create your own
Yep.
definition of success.
Mhm.
And then around this topic of identity, I think I'm hearing you say, and is resonating with me, is if I feel passionate about it, I identify with it. If
Mhm.
I loved the company I worked for, if I loved the work I was doing, if I, didn't like either of those aspects, it was easier to walk away, easier to separate, easier to take what I loved about it and apply it in
Yes.
whatever context then became available for me.
Yeah. That's great. This is just Tina and me, and we'd love to hear what you think. So please use the comments, whether you're seeing us on YouTube, whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, on LinkedIn, where we share the episode, we share shorts. So please share them and comment. We'd love to hear your perspective, especially around work and identity, credentials versus capability. Tell us how you disagree with us too.
Yeah, we do want to hear that.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Yifat, it's been great chatting with you today.
Good talking to you too.
Thank you, audience.
Thank you for joining us on Success Your Own Way. We hope you found this episode inspiring and took away actionable insights. Please tune in for our next episode. And if you know someone who is rethinking what success looks like in their life, please share this episode with them.